Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter. Let's talk boxing. Loads to cover today. And first off, we're going to start with the last video I uploaded. Will Smith slaps Chris Rock at the Oscars, real or fake, and we did a little technical breakdown of it to show that the slap itself, in my humble opinion, was not real. It was not designed to inflict any sort of pain at all. It was a pulled slap. Now, whether this is because this was staged, or whether Will Smith climbed up on stage, decided he had to do something because his missus Jada was giving him evils from the sideline while he was initially giggling at the joke, and he felt that he had to display his masculinity, right? He had to do something to defend her honor, and halfway up he's thinking, oh my word, what have I got myself into? And then he decided to pull the slap. I don't know. Either way, all I can tell you is that the slap did not appear to me to be real. The vast majority of people that watched the video seemed to agree with me. There were a few that didn't, and that's fine. However, there was a minority within that few that didn't agree with me, who were furious. They were fuming. How dare you question the motives of this star, Will Smith? How can you just deny it? The whole world saw what happened. What are you talking about? They then went on to say, what has he got to gain? What does Will Smith have to gain? What would the Oscars have to gain? Chris Rock, this is embarrassing, right? Well, let's consider it, shall we? First and foremost, Marsa wrote an article to say the Oscar winner's career had been on the decline prior to winning that Oscar, because an Oscar is a recognition from your peers. The actual movies themselves, though, his last few movies had not been hits at the box office. He has not been the superstar that he used to be in the eyes of the public. So first and foremost, something needed to happen in his career to catapult him back into the limelight. That's the first thing to consider. Now, The Observer wrote an article to say his career will not actually suffer because of this. And they give historical examples as to why that is the case. Now, they're not the only ones saying it. Agnes Scott, who's a professor and he's an author of Deconstructing Will Smith, a book, he predicted, this professor who looks at these sorts of trends in celebrities, that this will not harm his career either. The Drum, which writes about showbiz stories, said, for celebrities, the rule is no news is no news, good news is good news, and bad news is great news. It's an Oscar moment that will live forever. If we've learned anything over the past 2 decades, normal rules for brands don't apply anymore to celebrities. What happened has no effect on his acting abilities and not likely will have an impact on his commercial prospects. So that's something that you've got to consider right there. But it's not just Will Smith, is it? Chris Rock's Ego Death World Tour, the tickets for that have soared in demand and in prices. They've upped the prices. They're going to make a whole bunch more. Now, the Academy itself, the Oscars had drawn 16.6 million viewers, a soaring of 58% from last year's historic low. Now, it was the second lowest viewership ever of the Oscars, right? So obviously the Oscars is not doing well. It hasn't been doing well for a while. Hollywood's been beaten up. People have been turned off of Hollywood. Netflix has destroyed it. The virtue signaling has destroyed it. This is the reality. A lot of people have had enough of the Oscars. But the demographic of 18 to 49, okay, so you're talking about the future here, it rose by 73% from 2021. So clearly, this benefited the Oscars, and you always have to ask yourselves, my friends, cui bono? Who benefits? This is something that detectives use a lot. It's something that's used a lot in the court of law. It is the idea of whenever there's any sort of event, perhaps a crime, something occurs, to try and find out who committed that crime. One of the first things they ask is who benefits from this. If it doesn't benefit the person that carried it out, what would be the purpose in superseding that? But first and foremost, your first step is to ask who benefits. Well, the Academy, Will Smith and Chris Rock all benefit, don't they? Now, whether that's just a consequence that was lucky, I guess you could say, maybe. Or maybe they knew exactly what they were doing. I will leave that to you. Now, A.N. Dixon said, bro, you need to make another channel for social commentary. The breakdown was great. I had another few people say you need to do a social commentary. Listen, talking to Will Smith, have you guys seen the movie Enemy of the State? But I'll end up being like Will Smith in that, from back in the day when he was actually a superstar, not like now where his career's been declining, according to Marsa, right? When he was actually a star, this was a quality movie. I'll end up being like that, too contentious, annoying some sort of a secret agency. They'll try and hunt me down. I'll obviously then have to use my superior intellect to avoid them, and my boyish charm to convince some of you guys, my subscribers, to take me in for a few days, because obviously you're not going to want me to be homeless and sleeping rough, right? You're going to want to look after me. It's Chris Andre over here. Like, you know what I mean? We've got a special relationship, me and you guys. No one's going to leave me on the street. Come on now. Anyway, you guys will end up being undisciplined though, because you're all untrustworthy, and you'll end up tweeting something like, just watching boxing with Chris Andre or something like that, right? And you know what that will mean? It will mean that I'll have to go on the run again in the dead of night. Secret agency will end up bursting through your door, putting a bag over your head to take you away. Then my channel's views will start to fall drastically because obviously you lot will end up in Guantanamo and there'll be no one to press a like on my videos, which, by the way, press like on this video. Please don't forget. It helps the channel grow. I'll end up living in a field wearing tattered clothes and growing an 11-inch beard and ended up like a real life Mowgli, all because I started doing a social commentary. Nah, bruv, listen, I'm sticking to boxing. And talking of boxing, great development in the lightweight division. Devin Haney has accepted the terms of George Kambosos. According to Devin Haney, and the fight will go ahead. We're going to find out who's going to be the undisputed champion in the lightweight division. Props to Devin Haney for being willing to take big risks. Props to Kambosos for being willing to put it all on the line without any sort of tune-up fight, which Eddie Hearn was saying he would have been entitled to have. Well done to both of these guys. We're going to have a great fight, in my humble opinion. This is going to play out really, really well. One of the reasons that DAZN did not take up the fight, according to Eddie Hearn, is that they didn't feel the fight was big enough in America and they wanted global value as well as a global platform. So it's one for DAZN in terms of ins and outs, but the basics are that the deal couldn't be reached with Ludabella and DAZN to air the fight. Now, I hope this puts to bed some of the ideas that the offer being made to Devin Haney was atrocious and unacceptable. This is not what Eddie Hearn has been saying at any point. He's been encouraging Devin Haney to take the offer. He's been basically saying, yeah, this is essentially the stairway to success. Like I've been saying all along here on this channel. Bear in mind, because a couple of people have said to me, well, why should he have to fight 3 fights on ESPN? He is a free agent. There is no demand, as far as I understand it, for who the third opponent would be. So whether it's Lomachenko at 135 or whether he wants to go up to 140, there's some lack of clarity whether he would still be fighting on ESPN if he was to go up to 140 with Top Rank. If that is the case, though, perhaps the Teofimo Lopez fight would be on for him. Either way, if he's the undisputed champ and he wants to stay at lightweight or move up, you would expect Devin Haney to then be in a big fight. So if he's in a big fight and it's on ESPN, I don't see what the problem is. It probably benefits him. After all, if DAZN don't feel like there was value for the fight to be happening in America, then clearly DAZN don't feel that Devin Haney is the star that he feels he is. So maybe Top Rank ESPN will have more faith in him, right? So I don't see it as him being backed into a corner here at all. And it's good that he's signed this fight. Now, there has been a lot of people that have been saying that Kambosos is bang out of order. He's the one that's been putting it on him. And for some reason, he's making all these demands of Devin Haney. Why is he doing it? Is he attempting to duck? Well, there's an article that's come out whereby Kambosos gave an interview. And the accusation is that he's still making excuses. He's looking for the dark. The Boxing Voice have been saying, has he actually signed the contract? Or rather, they've accused him of not yet signing the contract himself. But that's not what he actually says here. What he says is, look, I'm still waiting to see his contract. I want to see that contract and we've got to fight because the world and Devin Haney has to understand they're the B-side and they've got to do what we tell you. In other words, he's saying, show me the contract so that I know the guy signed it and then I'll know we've got a fight on. He hasn't said he hasn't signed it. He then goes on to say, we're the A side, we've got all the belts, and when I see no problem, we've got a fight. But just remember that I chose you. I could have picked anybody. Now, a lot of Devin Haney fans are saying, why is he still talking like this? Is this some sort of duck, or is it another attempt to duck, to undermine Haney, to try and find a loophole? Listen, if he tries to find a loophole and he gets out of this somehow, then yes, I too will be saying that Kambosos is ducking. But none of this suggests that. To me, this suggests psychological warfare, because he goes on to say the first choice was Lomachenko because he's the more exceptional fighter, a brand. But Haney can play second fiddle and come to Australia, pack his bags and bring his team over. He's never actually had the pleasure of winning it in the ring. Talking about his title, right? So now he's saying you're lesser than Lomachenko and we wanted a guy who's better than you, but now we're taking on the lesser fighter. So this is undermining Devin Haney. He's telling him that you're basically an email champion. He's repeating that. You haven't won it in the ring. You don't know what that's like. He goes on to say, you know, that feeling when you take it off a champion in his hometown. Well, now he's going to try and do that. But when I won these belts, my hunger and my motivation went through the roof. In other words, don't think that I'm going to undermine you, Devin. You've never experienced what I have, to go to another man's backyard, a champion's backyard, take his titles, and you're never going to experience that. Certainly not with me, because now my motivation is through the roof. He goes on to say, let's hope he gets on that plane and comes and fights. And he can only fight for so long before he starts running. Now he's putting it in his mind as well. What are you going to do? You're going to start running? Now we know from Devin Haney, he does get affected by this idea that he can't punch. After the Jorge Linares fight, he came out and he started asking Linares in the changing room post-fight, I can punch, right? I can punch. What do you think of my power? And Linares, even then, even in that moment where he was being humble and friendly, he was a little bit dismissive. He was, well, you know, it's okay. It's okay. Like, you know, it's not your best attribute sort of thing. And Devin Haney clearly didn't like that. He's a young man. He wants to win people over. He wants to convince them. What are you talking about? I do carry more pop. No, I don't have to run. I can stand and fight. And Kambosos is playing on this. He's picking away at his mentality. He goes on to say he's good on his feet, but it's only a matter of time before I cut him down and break him down and not only strip him of that version of his belt, but strip him of his career like I did to Teofimo Lopez. I don't just take these belts off Lopez, I took everything away from him. Now, this is Tyson Fury-esque against Vladimir Klitschko, in my humble opinion, because although this is a reversal in the sense that Kambosos has the belts, in the United States, it's Haney that's still considered the superstar in waiting, the future of the sport, right? The new Floyd Mayweather, as he has been portrayed, and he is a fantastic fighter. There's no doubt about it. I think Haney can go on to have a terrific career. Kambosos, though, is playing on that. He's letting him know, listen, all these guys have been putting you on a pedestal. You got Ben Davison there, who's blatantly gassing your head. Your father's gassing your head, a former world champion who I beat in Mickey Bay, who's in your corner as well, gassing your head. DAZN, Eddie Hearn, the fans, they're all saying you're going to be the next star. But remember one thing, you're lesser than the guy I wanted to fight. And I know you're going to run from me like you always do because you cannot stand and trade. And if you run, it makes no difference. I'm going to cut you down. I'm going to take you out. And you're going to have to come over here and do everything that I want you to do because I'm the boss. I'm the A-side. You are lesser than me. Now, yes, this can potentially backfire. Devin Haney might get that bit between his teeth. He might bite down on that gum shield in a manner that perhaps he might not have, but let's face it, he's determined. He's yet to taste that real success. He's still hungry. So I don't think there's much chance of that happening. What this is more likely to do is make Devin Haney question himself, perhaps make him make bad decisions that he wants to prove himself to Kambosos and to the world, right? Bear that in mind. This is psychological warfare. It's not a duck, in my humble opinion. Now, moving on from that, Tyson Fury has brought in Jarrell Miller for sparring in preparation for the Dillian White fight. In some regards, I totally get why he's done this. Both Dillian and Jarrell are broad-shouldered, barrel-chested, big, strong men who, if necessary, will take punishment to get their own punishment off. Jarrell Miller does not have the jab that Dillian White has. Dillian White's jab really does go under the radar. But he offers, like I said, other attributes that are similar. In some regards, they may even be better than Dillian White's. Maybe he can walk a guy down and set a tempo even better than Dillian White can. So Tyson Fury clearly feels like he can benefit from this sparring. But there's been a backlash. The idea is that Tyson Fury's given him a doorway back into the sport. I personally cannot hold Tyson Fury responsible for that. If he feels like he's going to benefit for his particular fight, he's going to go down this route. After all, the ban for Jarrell Miller has been lifted. Now, if you want to see changes in the rules, like I said, I understand that. And I had a great discussion about this with Tom Maltby. You can find him at TM Boxing PT. Also with Tom at UK Fight Night. You can find him at UK Fight Night 1, at Leon the Canteen, also got involved to support these guys. So I understand here that there are people that feel quite strongly about Jarrell Miller not being involved in the sport anymore. But my position on this is that if he has served his time and he's allowed back into the sport from the governing bodies and the authorities, it's not for Tyson Fury to say, you know what, I'm banning you. If he's going to benefit from it, I'm banning you myself. You know, Jarrell Miller has failed. Yes, I get it. So have other fighters that have failed. Some of them superstars. And they are not treated in the same way. Yes, Jarrell Miller may have failed on multiple occasions. There have been other guys that failed more than once too, right? You know, someone like Tom Maltby, for instance, felt that there are differences in the types of drugs you take. You know, bulking up to 300 pounds and injecting EPO into his fat cheeks is what he said. Say he doesn't get tired isn't the same as Lucas Brown taking a fat burner. However, my position on this is that when you're talking about PED use, you take a particular performance enhancing drug for that reason. It says it in the word. It enhances your performance. So by taking it, you're cheating regardless. Now, what I might take may be different to what you might take because we have different needs. There are fighters who I believe are size guys. They like to rely on being a bigger man. People like Jared Hurd, Belanga, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. To these guys, a diuretic is going to be of much more benefit than EPO because they've already got stamina. They can set a tempo. They're big dudes. But what they want to be able to do is shrink down from being, say, a natural middleweight to being a welterweight, from being a natural light heavyweight to being a middleweight. Now, if a guy, on the other hand, is an aerobic athlete rather than an anaerobic athlete, and he wants to work quickly and be explosive and he tires a lot, guys like Canelo, who used to take a lot of portions of a round off, Anthony Joshua has some stamina issues at points. To them, EPO would be more beneficial, whereas to a guy like Hurd, Berlanga, Chavez, and I'm not suggesting any of these guys are cheating, by the way, we're just talking about the styles of particular athletes and what they look for. To them, a diuretic would be more beneficial. So to me, cheating is cheating, regardless of what it is that you're taking. The point is, your aim is still to cheat to make yourself a more effectively dangerous man. So what we need to do is either, yes, have a strike system. That's something that at UK Fight Night fell. 3 strikes and you're out. The problem with that is that it almost gives guys a couple of strikes for free. Tom Maltby said he wouldn't be for a 3-strike policy. He'd actually want a case-by-case basis. So that could override that. If somebody does something too bad, you can instantly get rid of him. The problem with that is who decides on what is too bad? Who decides on that case-by-case? What happens when it is a superstar fighter who is an A-side cash cow? Are they going to start acting a little bit differently because the sport's going to take too much of a beating? Because money will be lost for some key players, for states that are involved in hosting fights? It does create a dangerous precedent. I don't know what the best way is forward. I'm not passing judgment on that. What I am saying, however, is that Tyson Fury is not at fault here. Jarrell Miller has served his time. Tyson Fury feels he'll benefit. Let me know what you think, though, and who you agree with. Another quick one, Munguia looks like he'll be fighting Danny Jacobs. That's been announced. Really interesting because Munguia, for me, is a guy who's a bit of a bully in that ring. Danny Jacobs is a very smart boxer, but perhaps he doesn't have the engine that he used to have. So if Munguia is struggling early on, maybe he's going to put his foot on the gas. Would he have enough to then take Jacobs out of there? And so that raises question marks, and that makes it interesting to me. It's a good fight, one I'd want to see, but let me know what you think. I know a lot of people seem to be unhappy about it. Gennady Golovkin has come out and had to defend almost his career. He's actually said, indeed, you're right that many boxers are characterized by the rivalries they've had during their professional career. But at the same time, I don't think that my rivalry with Canelo Alvarez is the only thing that characterizes my career. Just to point out a few things, I am the record holder for the number of defenses, 21. I have the biggest number of knockouts, and I think there are people who will remember me by that. There are people to whom it will matter more. What a sad state of affairs when Gennady Golovkin, one of the great all-time middleweights, is almost having to justify his career. How did we get to this point in boxing, man? I see it all the time on Twitter as well. Why did he never come out of his division? Marvin Hagler didn't come out of his division. 8 years, reigning champ. Are we now going to retrospectively undermine Marvin Hagler? Let me know what you think about Gennady Golovkin. How do you see Gennady Golovkin looking back? I really do want to hear what your view is of Gennady Golovkin and how he'll be remembered. Terence Crawford has come out and he said that he edges Errol Spence to win the fight, but that's not to take any credit away from Ugas. He believes that he's a tremendous talent, and I think he has what it takes to derail Spence. But who knows how that fight will go. I see a little advantage to Spence, but it will be a great fight. Hopefully I can face the winner. If not, I want to go up and face the winner of Castano and Charlo. So he's reiterated what we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, whereby he wants to target Charlo. Is this a little dig at Errol Spence again? Is he saying, listen, I want that fight, but if they won't want to fight me, what can I do apart from go up and beat up his buddy? Is that what he's saying here? Let me know what you think about that take. Is he just being honest, or is he trying to throw shade? We've also heard that the rematch between Inoue and Donaire will take place. What a terrific fight. Can't wait for that one. Let me know who you've got in a rematch there. Imagine Donaire was to win that fight. What would it do for his legacy? Please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe button, and notifications button. It really does make a great difference to grow the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. God bless.